Neurons communicate with other cells at junctions called synapses. Neurons form synapses with muscles, glands, and other neurons. Your goals for learning are to learn that neurons synapse with muscle cells, gland cells, and each other, to learn where synapses are located on neurons, to know that there are both electrical and chemical synapses, to understand the structural components of a chemical synapse. Here's what you need to know: the effector organs of the nervous system, the anatomy of neurons, what a gap junction is, the definitions of central nervous system, somatic nervous system, and autonomic nervous system. To see definitions of terms, click the bold red words. Skeletal muscle is activated by neurons of the somatic nervous system. Cardiac muscle, smooth muscle, and glands receive signals from neurons of the autonomic nervous system. Click the biceps brachii muscle to see how neuronal stimulation affects skeletal muscle. Somatic motor neurons from the central nervous system project directly to skeletal muscle. A synapse between a somatic motor neuron and a skeletal muscle fiber is called a neuromuscular junction. When an action potential arrives at a neuromuscular junction, it initiates a series of events which excite the underlying muscle fiber, causing it to contract. Click the heart to see how neuronal stimulation affects cardiac muscle. Signals in the autonomic nervous system travel over a two-neuron chain to their effector organ. The second neuron, or autonomic motor neuron, contacts the organ. Signals from some autonomic motor neurons cause the heart rate to increase. Signals from other neurons slow the heart. Action potentials to the heart may excite or inhibit it. Click the small intestine to see how neuronal stimuli affect smooth muscle. Signals from some autonomic motor neurons cause smooth muscle to contract. Signals from other neurons cause smooth muscle contractions to slow or stop. Action potentials to smooth muscle may excite or inhibit it. Click the adrenal gland to see how neuronal stimulation affects glandular tissue. Signals from the central nervous system can cause glands to secrete. You may click any of the organs to see the animations again. In addition to sending signals to effector organs, neurons send signals to each other. Click the central nervous system to see synapses between neurons. Neurons can excite or inhibit other neurons. Click the upper axon to see the effect it has on this neuron. The neuron that synapses on the dendrites of this cell excites it and causes it to generate an action potential. Click the lower axon to see the effect it has on this neuron. In this case, the neuron synapsing on the soma inhibits the cell and prevents it from generating an action potential. In the brain, a variety of synapses have evolved to serve complex transmission needs between neurons. Click on each box to learn more about the synapse. Click Continue to proceed. Synapse is located between axon terminals of one neuron, and dendrites, soma, or axon of another, are most common. Click each synapse to learn its name. These are axodendritic synapses. Like axosomatic synapses, these carry input signals to neurons. These are axoaxonic synapses, and they are functionally different from axodendritic and axosomatic synapses. They do not provide input signals to neurons. Axoaxonic synapses can regulate the amount of chemical transmitter that is released by another axon terminal, thus inhibiting or facilitating the signal from another neuron. These are axosomatic synapses. Like axodendritic synapses, these carry input signals to neurons. Here, we concentrate on studying the synapses which provide input signals to neurons, the axodendritic and axosomatic synapses. These are two types of synapses, electrical and chemical. Both are found in similar locations on neurons. Click the electrical synapse to learn more about it. When one neuron forms a gap junction with another neuron, an electrical synapse is made. Electrical current, in the form of ions, flows directly from one neuron to the other through the gap junction. These synapses are always excitatory. Click the synapse to see it operate. These neurons depolarize and generate action potentials simultaneously. Electrical synapses have these advantages: fast signal transmission between neurons, and signal transmission to a group of electrically coupled neurons can synchronize their activity. Click the chemical synapse to learn more about it. At a chemical synapse, neuronal membranes are separated by a gap called the synaptic cleft. Electrical current cannot flow directly from one neuron to the other. A chemical, called a neurotransmitter, is released from the sending axon and carries the signal to the next neuron. Chemical synapses transmit signals more slowly than electrical synapses, but the signal may be either excitatory or inhibitory, and the signal can be modified as it passes from one neuron to the next. Chemical synapses are the most common type of synapse, and they are associated with the most complex human behaviors, including learning and memory. Chemical synapses have two parts: an axon terminal of one neuron and the cell membrane of another neuron. To learn more, click each label as it appears. The neuron conducting an action potential toward the synapse is called the presynaptic neuron. The axon terminal of the presynaptic neuron contains membranous sacs called synaptic vesicles, which are filled with neurotransmitter. The gap separating the cells is the synaptic cleft. The presynaptic and postsynaptic neurons are separated by a gap of 30 to 50 nanometers. An action potential that reaches the axon terminal causes synaptic vesicles to fuse with it, releasing neurotransmitter into the synaptic cleft. The neurotransmitter then diffuses across the synaptic cleft and binds to receptors on the postsynaptic neuron. The neuron receiving the signal is called the postsynaptic neuron. When activated, receptors on the postsynaptic neuron open ion channels. The movement of ions across the neuronal membrane creates an electrical signal called a synaptic potential. Synaptic potentials vary in amplitude and travel only a short distance. Thus, they are very different from action potentials. You may click any label to see that animation again. Here's a summary of what we've covered. Neurons communicate with muscles, glands, or other neurons at junctions called synapses. Synapses are located on all parts of the neuron. Those on dendrites and soma bring information to the neuron. Electrical synapses are rapid, excitatory only, and can synchronize the activity of postsynaptic cells. Chemical synapses are slower, may be excitatory or inhibitory, and are more flexible than electrical synapses. The presynaptic neuron and postsynaptic neuron, separated by the synaptic cleft, make up a chemical synapse.